Hello and welcome to the Authentic Freedom Virtual Church. My name is Lori Lumby and I'm the pastor and spiritual director of this online virtual community. Oh my gosh, has this been a doozy of the last 3 weeks, and I thank you deeply for your patience as I have journeyed through many things that have been outside my control. On one hand, I accompanied and attended to a friend who underwent experimental medical treatment in the hopes of avoiding surgery for physical complication, and accompanying her at this point where she is literally immobile from the procedure, which was to be expected, as the procedure heals and takes root within her. I accompanied that same friend through the death of her mother, accompanied another friend who is facing a serious medical diagnosis, and another who recently lost her young husband to an airplane crash. In the midst of those friends and loved ones who are going through challenges in their lives, I also dealt with something that, in retrospect, or I guess in perspective, in comparison, looks irrelevant and unimportant, and that's the complete crash of my hard drive, which prevented me from filming this service in the last 3 weeks. So again, thank you for your patience as I found my way through these opportunities. I share these personal experiences with you because they are relevant to this week's readings. This week's readings remind us that we are not in charge. They remind us that as much as we think that we are in control, as much as we believe or want to believe that we make the rules, that the plans that we make will be executed, and that they will be executed with ease, that the ideas that we have about ourselves and our contribution to the world are correct and accurate and exactly where we're supposed to be for our highest good. As much as we think we know, the truth of the matter is, most of the time we do not. We do not know because we are busy wrapped up in our egos. We are wrapped up in the illusion of control, and wrapped up in the pride that says, I can do it, I have to do it, and I have to do it alone. This week's readings remind us that we are not in charge, and that when we think we are, this is when we find that life is a struggle. As we are busy making plans, as we are busy executing our to-do list, as we are busy creating our 5 and 10-year goals, writing our business plan, coming up with strategic marketing ideas, working, striving, pushing, trying. As we are busy doing that, the Holy Spirit, God, often chuckles. God chuckles because God knows what's in our highest good. And unforeseen and invisible to us, God is caring and supporting us towards our highest good. And what I have learned in the last few weeks is exactly what Jesus taught in the parable of the seed. He tells the story of a man planting a seed. And he says the man plants the seed, he waters it, he tends to it, but he doesn't know how suddenly the seed grows and matures and becomes what it was intended to be. A wheat seed becomes a stalk filled with grains of wheat. A sunflower seed becomes a vibrant and glowing sunflower. An acorn becomes an oak tree. A juniper berry becomes a juniper bush. Plants, flowers, all things of nature grow into whatever they are supposed to become, not by their own volition, but because of something invisible inside of them, and something invisible to us that we might call God. Now, sometimes the sunflower seed becomes squirrel food. And if that's the case, then that's exactly what that seed was meant to be. Sometimes the squirrel seed becomes compost. And if that's the case, then that's exactly what it was meant to be. And sometimes the sunflower seed becomes a vibrant and glowing, brilliant yellow sunflower. A sunflower that is beautiful to behold and which bears hundreds, sometimes millions of seeds. Seeds that will become compost, seeds that will become bird or squirrel food, seeds that will become future sunflowers. This happens naturally and effortlessly. Effortlessly is the key. As it is with a seed, so too is it with us, when we get out of the way. When we stop forcing, when we stop trying to make things go our way, when we stop trying to manipulate and control, when we stop doing, and simply allow. A significant shift happened in my own life over the course of the last week. A week that was filled with heavy grief, perhaps the heaviest grief I've ever experienced. Grief at the loss of a young man, grief over the family that was left behind, grief over a community that has lost a leader. Grief that was outside of myself, but also connected with a deep grief within myself. Grief over all of the plans that I had made that didn't seem to be turning out. When I allowed myself to sink into the depths of despair, to throw up my hands in surrender and acknowledge that possibly I had failed. When I threw my hands up in that state of complete supplication, saying, I give up, God, it's up to you, only then did the tides turn. What I discovered on the other side of that despair, on the other side of that surrender, on the other side of that supplication, was ease. In that state of ease, the to-do list no longer meant anything. It no longer bore weight, and it did not possess any sort of energy that said, take care of me. Instead, what showed up were things I had no idea I would be doing, things I had no idea would be accomplished, and yet they were accomplished in complete ease. This is how we know if we are on the path that God intends for us, or if we have strayed into the path of our ego. Are we allowing the flower that is within us to bloom? We don't know how, but of its own ease, unhindered, unencumbered, simply flowing and allowing and happening? Or are we stuck in that place of driving, where nothing seems to be working out? Everything seems to be a failure.
and everything is causing us grief. This is the lesson of this week's readings. To recognize and remember that God knows what is in our highest good and is caring and supporting us in our journey to achieving that. And that all we need to do is allow. But first, sometimes we have to do a lot of letting go.